This is a presentation about dark matter, Health Canada solution for information retrieval, and we are the Canadian health regulator, and we are responsible for reviewing and licensing drugs commercialization inside Canada. So we keep track of many documents types, including lots of them submitted by industry, with product reviews and also protected by intellectual property. We have public regulations that we generate, and also pharma and academic publications that need to be managed internally. We need to deal with communications directly to the public, where we manage possible drug misusage or adverse events reports, as well miscellaneous informations. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, new requirements were raised. We need to support searches for published and with high noise news media stories. We need to align these results with collected data from scientific publications as well regulatory documents and public clinical trial data. So at this stage, we are dealing with these multiple sources. So all of this needs to be consistent with what Health Canada sees as a valid piece of information to be given to public, and as well to improve its own knowledge on how things should be working. Uh, to build this type of thing, we build a pipeline to extract information from multiple documents. First, we process all documents using a natural, named entity recognition based on spacing and size spacing. We then use the FDA gold, gold standard data. We created a custom model to recognize senses of phrases if they are indication, contraindication, adverse effect, and so on. So we can annotate each phrase of a document with a possible sense of that phrase. We have a second model that was also internally developed to detect PICO concepts, if it's an outcome, if it's an intervention, and so on. So we analyze all of these usually for scientific publications. All the entities extracted from these models are converted into unified medical language system. So we use the UMLS as a form of normalization of the terms found in the text. And we store this inside a database, which we call dark matter. So as mentioned before, dark matter is a database that we developed directly in Postgres for its advantages related to being a solid system, cheap, easy to support. The tables themselves are actually containing the concepts are extremely simple. They only have the information about the document, the entity that was recognized, the translation of this entity to a UMLS term, the phrase type, if it's indication, contraindication, or if it's a intervention or some other class. The phrase classifier, if it's the FDA model or if it was the PICO model that was used, and the token classifier if it was one of the 4 different types of classifiers available in size spacing. We use this very same structure, data structure, to put multiple collections, and so for each collection we create a different table like this, and this gives us a lot of flexibility to join this with metadata available for each of them. This also gives us an easy way to execute joins internally to allow us to improve our data retrieval. Um, um, So, as I was mentioning, the data retrieval process based on the inner joins allows us to group documents according to the same set of entities or any other criteria defined by the user. The joint documents, for instance, can be easily internal documents can be easily interjoined with scientific literature, and we can find medications and other characteristics that are of interest for Health Canada. We can rank these relationships according to the type of query we are using, which allows us to keep consistency on the topic selection. Um, we can and we have the option to enforce the token type and classifications and the reasons through this complex retrieval corner cases. So we can identify potential things like selling teddy bears to fund cure of cancer, and instead of selling teddy bears as a cure for cancer. So we can this data structure allows us to identify certain types of misrepresentations of the text. So the data validation for us is extremely simple too. We have our internal documents which contain the information that we know about the world. In other words, what are the medications and the diseases that are being treated currently inside the Canadian market, given by companies that are responsible for producing these medications. So we process all this data and we can interconnect them via joins directly with scientific literature that not necessarily use the same type of naming scheme. So we can join all of that based on whatever we find, even if we don't have the UMLS or correct UMLS coding for that. This gives us a lot of flexibility to find, for instance, off-label usage of certain chemical products, and which is a very normal thing that happens in scientific literature, since the people are testing many times the same product with different types of diseases. So this gives us a capability to have a concept growth. In other words, terms that are completely new can be dynamically added to the vocabulary we have internally identified from these models, and we can match them with current models that current terms that we understand now. So the whole validation allows to infer new facts, and which makes this system a ontology. So as conclusion in future work, we are searching meaningful documents. Searching meaningful documents is an extremely hard process. There is too much data, unstructured data, and searching by keyword only is very complex. So we need support from artificial intelligence and machine learning in this case. We are moving from these controlled vocabularies like UMLS itself to some ontologies, really. And for that reason, we are trying to also to ground all of that into authoritative legislation. So we are dealing with potential overloading of certain terms, like what is a drug. For law enforcement, it will have a meaning, but for therapeutical usage, it will have a different one. We also are trying our best to invest in better interfaces for searching, and also building contextualized experiences using the metadata and the raw data as basis to confirm how the data should be presented to the end user. We have a huge interest in increasing the literature search to touch on other topics beyond COVID-19. And also we want to expand the use of this tool to deal with food data, which is a very special case for us, since very little work was done internally, at least, to associate terms and potential adverse use of products of medications with food under certain conditions. This is a presentation of the toolbox to select to find information for Health Canada, the dark matter. And here we have a simple interface where a person types whatever he or she is looking for, like a term, a disease name, or a chemical name. In this case, I typed COVID-19, and the results appear in these different tabs. Here I'm showing the scientific literature, and if a person clicks here, the system will redirect them directly to the interface showing the title of the paper, the abstract whenever available, and as well, the first set of results here show the top 10 related papers to this one being seen by the user. So the person can choose to look at it and see if there is any relevant work associated with the one that is looking at. As you can see, the main title is Acute Kidney Injury in Patients Hospitalized with COVID-19. And this ranking was generated by the toolbox we have. And it shows us the first result, the clinical analysis of kidney injury in patients with COVID-19. So it has a very strong relationship between each other. The second tab we have here shows the information about the possible mesh terms that were found. So these one are the original mesh terms that were extracted from the publisher, which of course are not that much relevant in this case. And we tried our best using our own system to predict the mesh terms that could be associated with this particular paper using the information from previous papers related with him. So the information that you see here probably is not going to be 100% matching, but it's going to be our best guess to try to associate this document with each other and with the mesh terms that may be relevant. And